Did I bite off of another YouTuber for the thumbnail? Kinda. What else you want me to do? It's James Bond. Alright, 007, First Light. A couple housekeeping things, because I don't play a whole lot of video games. Sorry, I had to change your orientation a little bit. I didn't like how it looked. Oh, and I had to get my wedding ring. That's not important. It is important. This isn't going to be like a deep breakdown of like game mechanics and things like that. I don't really notice that kind of thing when I play games. I'm not particularly good at video games, so for me, a game has to be exceptionally poorly rendered or created, or the mechanics have to be just like dog water for me to notice that this isn't good. So if you're like a game snob or some, I don't like snob, but if you're like a hardcore gamer and you're concerned with like frame rate and that kind of thing, then you might not get much from this. For me, I play video games, story-based video games, mainly because I just get invested in the narrative, and occasionally I like to shoot people in the head, and it seems to be an origin type story. This is a young Bond. We're following the story of how he got wrapped into MI6. Now they're a little vague regarding like what he was doing beforehand, why he was in the situation he was in. Not that that's really all that important, but you kind of, from the start of the game, you get right into it. You're on your first mission, unsanctioned, but you're on it, and then you get wrapped up in MI6, and the game unfolds. What I can say, this game is great. Like I enjoyed playing it. I've had it a couple of weeks. It's not a particularly long game. Now, for reference, I don't run through games very fast. I'm not like a sit down and play for hours kind of guy. And now that all also takes into consideration, how good are you at games like this. For me, when it starts time for like shootouts and things like that, I have bad aim and I'm not good at cover, so I die a lot. And so that pads, how long it takes to get through. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about the length of the game. But in terms of the story itself, I was really invested in this. James has his band of other spies. For the most part, they all work in the story. Greenway and Bond is a relationship dynamic that I specifically feel like maybe if they had been able to interact a little more before things unfold the way that they unfold, maybe I would have been impacted a little more than I was. But all of the things are done well, if not a little short. One thing that stands out to me in this game is the music. Like, they nailed whatever espionage feels like, and there was always like this haunting mystery going on in the orchestra. A lot of violin work. When he would be entangled with this woman or that woman, there was always like this undercurrent of kind of sinister nature to it. Like, this person can't fully be trusted, but it also sounded sensual to accentuate that vulnerability that James shows when he's dealing with women, because that's James Bond gonna have his women. And he does in this game a couple of different times. One in particular who, that relationship I'm rooting for. I don't really want to spoil what does or doesn't happen. Now, if you're a huge James Bond fan and you know these characters and you know where they're supposed to end up or whatever, then I don't know how this is gonna track with that. I don't know how many of these names are recognizable to a Bond to a Bond fan. There are characters that make it, and there are characters that don't. And knowing next to nothing about James Bond characters, it was it was hard to call. There's a entertaining aspect of not knowing where this story is going, and this story goes some places. Like, as I was playing the last chapter, I was thinking about like from where the game started to where we end up. I'm like, I'm not even entirely sure how we got here, and I don't mean that as an insult. Like, the story is disjointed. It's not disjointed. I just mean it escalates so much beyond where we begin that it's just like, yeah, this is a totally different experience. Like two missions ago, I was in South Africa fighting an alligator, and now I'm dealing with a cyborg humanoid type thing. This is a very versatile game. One thing I will say to a criticism, and I don't know if I'm qualified to even say this, but the mission structures seem to be a little limited. Like, where you would go and what kind of things you would deal with was very versatile, but the way in which you would deal with it seemed kind of limited. You would hack this device, sneak around this corner, and rinse and repeat, blah blah blah. And there weren't really consequences for failing. What do I mean by that? You could pick to do a mission under the radar. You know, like you could sneak in and out of windows, or you could steal a invitation or something like that. But failing that, you could also just punch your way through it. As I'm playing the game, I do have a sort of disconnect when, like, I'm James Bond, I'm here illegally. Like, I have a cover that I have to maintain, because they find out what's really going on, then I'm gonna get arrested or killed or whatever have you. And it pulls me out when I get caught and they just say, okay, right this way, sir. And it doesn't restart the mission. Like, you didn't fail. Like, I get caught and they just ask me to move along. And then when I come back, 5 minutes later, there's nothing up. Like, this time I can just put, like, no alarm triggered, or no game over screen. I don't know, that for me, that kind of bothers me. It just doesn't feel as immersive as I would like. But that's a minor thing, because as repetitive as it was a cycle that I liked. I did find it entertaining. I liked being a spy. I liked sneaking up behind people and knocking them out. I tried to be as non-lethal as possible, even when I would get the license to kill. I tried not to be lethal if there was a way around it. I do run into a little bit of an issue at the end. It feels like we come to a climax and the game seems to be over, and then we tack on an extra mission. I got to the end of chapter 9, and it ends in a way I was like, oh, okay, cool, this is to be continued. We're gonna pick this up in a sequel, I guess. And it's like, oh no, another mission, another shootout, another it's kind of like the Harvey Dent thing at the end of The Dark Knight after we deal with the Joker. And it's like, when that ending works, it works, but it's a risky gamble. And in this game, I don't feel like it worked. I just felt like it was an extra 45 minutes when I really wanted to go to bed. Now, that's my fault. I could have just gone to bed, but I had already been in the headspace of this is the end. So when it wasn't the end, I had to keep pushing. Like, I can't just walk away now, This game definitely feels a little like very experimental, because you get only a couple of like spy gadgets and things like that. It feels like the developers are testing the waters, and they want to see what goes into a 007 game, what fans will and won't like, and then it feels like in a sequel we'll get like 6 more gadgets. The story complements that, because this is Bond in his early days, and you see some nods like why he prefers his martini shaken, not stirred, things like that, and that's cool. That's cool, like flavoring and whatever. If anything, I walk away from like anything about the game that I didn't like. I walk away from it going, I feel like this would be addressed in a sequel, and I would absolutely want to play a sequel, because even from a story standpoint, I want to see where the story goes. We're not finished. I'm very specific about the games I spend money on, because they're just so expensive. But if you had the money to spend, I like I said, I enjoyed my time, so I would go get it. Last thing I'll say, when this game was first coming out, I heard discourse about the fact that James was taking orders from a woman, or some nonsense like that. Now, one, shouldn't even need to address a criticism like that. Why? Because it's not a criticism, like, at all. It's not. But let's deal with it for 2 seconds. One, spoiler alert, it's an AI to begin with, so the cat's out of the bag. You got your panties in a bunch for nothing. But 2, I understand how when you sit down with a game, you want your protagonist to be competent. You want, and especially a character like James Bond, a classic character, you don't want to see him bumbling through stuff, not being able to handle himself or everything, because that's just not the character that you've come to expect. And this whole deconstructing character down to his roots, I mean, that was cool for a while, but it's like, I've had enough of it. But taking orders from a woman does not say anything about that. James Bond is perfectly capable in this game. I mean, you're the gamer, but he can handle himself, and I mean, he does work under M, and M is a woman, to be fair. But that, again, that's a non-start. That's not an argument. It's not an argument at all. And if you are that worried about it, and if you need the foundation that secure for you to pick up a controller and play a video game, then one, you don't deserve the game to begin with. Like it's just a waste of time. Like you're too fragile. But two, there's nothing to worry about here. Like since you must know, there's nothing to worry about here. Bond is fine. Go play it. There's plenty of power fantasy here. There's plenty of people that you can knife up and choke out and stab and shoot and bug. And I'm not even saying that there's anything wrong with that. I like violent video games. What's wrong with that? You know, enjoy yourself. But some of the ways that y'all come to conclude that a game or a movie is bad or something, it's just annoying, bro. It's annoying. Go play the game. Remember when the Arkham Knight came out and everybody was excited to use the Batmobile and be able to fight Deathstroke because we found out Deathstroke was going to be in the game, and then the fans started coming out and saying the Batmobile was used a little too much and the fight with Deathstroke ended up being vehicular warfare. People didn't like that. I feel like the opposite happened in this game with the Aston Martin, where like we definitely could have gone for more of it, and the way in which you utilized it was just very underwhelming. I wish I would have done that conflict in a car chase.